Hi everyone. It's quite a cozy crowd, so thank you all for coming. It really means a lot that you're here. And even it means a lot to us that there are men in the audience as well. As this is an industry issue, it's not just a women's issue. I heard a lot of misconceptions outside, when I was talking to some people. It's like, oh, I look at the title, I see women, maybe it's only for women. But this is a global issue. It's an industry issue that we need to talk about.
You've been passing the mic around there as well.
Okay. So without further ado, maybe my panelists can introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Chor Guan. I used to run the Gambit program, and I'm a co-founder of MXR International, which is actually focusing on AR and VR for educational books, actually. So, shall I just say about myself? Or
tell us how you got into games development.
Okay. So my background is kind of long. So, go ahead. I'll just give it in 3 minutes, okay? So actually I started off having a degree in computer science and started off doing air traffic controllers. And I guess by chance, I was studying in Canada, so I actually got into EA Canada doing sports games and a lot of first player shooter games altogether. And I guess that got me into video games. I always enjoyed playing video games, so I thought that was more fun than creating air traffic controllers for, airplanes and everything like that, actually. So that started onto my journey. And I guess my journey has kind of been varied, correct guys, ranging from, teaching in Nanyang Polytechnic and now adjunct in DigiPen, exposure in animation in Lucasfilm. And of course, some of you guys may know me for, running the Gambit program, which is bringing internship from Singapore to MIT, actually. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here, listening to us. I'm Shieny. I'm from Agate. We are an Indonesian game company. So, myself, how I entered the game industry is because, I love games, like all of us do. And, on my, I went to the university with my other co-founders, and suddenly, we, make games together, and then we enroll to a competition, and then we were getting addicted to it. So, by the time we graduated, then we just pop up the idea to why don't make this serious thing. So we established a company. And then thankfully we are still here now. And we are doing many things now because we have many co-founders. And so right now, what I'm doing in the company is doing serious games. So we make games for education purpose, for business purpose, like marketing, also for right now one of the product is we do develop games for teaching Islamic or Muslim morals to Indonesian children in a very positive way. Awesome. So that's all for me.
Hello, I'm Ling. I'm doing Utopia right now, which is where we build academies to train talents in game art and game development, and then also helping to build new teams through incubation via our partners in Indonesia. And I was the former co-founder of Inzen Studio, where we did a lot of casual games, and I started my career in EA Singapore as a QA tester. After that, I moved to a local studio to do game design. Then to Gambit, where I did game design and as an AP, before co-founding Inzen with some of my former colleagues.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So, Shieny, how many co-founders do you all have?
You already know this.
Yes, but everybody.
No, we have 18 co-founders.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But on the other hand, we do many things. So that's it. That is the justification why we have so many co-founders.
It's a great justification. So, for those who didn't know, Chor Guan is actually me and Tia Ling's former boss as well. So, we have a fantastic panel of a lot of very experienced women, and the commonality is that all of us went into the games industry because we love to play games, and all of us have had development experience. So, here's the first question, okay? What do you think women bring into the industry? Why is it so special about us that makes it important to have diversity in the industry and globally as well?
So, because the mic is in me. So yeah, so the importance is actually from my perspective is not really on the specific to the game industry, but it's similar to other industry, which is the workplace diversity is very important. One thing is because to make the what is it, the thoughts or the ideas coming from the team more creative, more what is it called, more diversified. More diversified ideas, and also because like we all do. I mean, in our company right now we have a bit over 100 people in our company, and 98% of them is young people. So can you imagine young people, all men, how demotivated they will be if all of the colleagues are boys? So yeah, that is one a bit funny reason, but very important, right? And also for in the leadership composition, it's very important to have women as well, because naturally women generally are more sensitive, and also more welcoming to the team. So it's similar with other industry, is very important as well in game industry.
I actually have more or less the same views as Shieny, actually. I feel that females sometimes bring another form of opinions to the table. For example, when we are doing different strategies for the company, we tend to, for the males, they tend to be more careless in some ways, or they don't think about certain details. For us, we try to hone the strategy so that it's more accepted for other parties. So I think opinions from females are also very important when we are doing more high level stuff instead of just only game development.
I think echoing what everybody else said, but again, one other thing which I think is very important, and not just females in the games industries, but looking at the high-tech industries nowadays, is a very male-oriented industry. And I think when we tend to build products, we just, especially if it's a male-oriented industry, we tend to build just for guys. So I think it's actually more and more important, especially with the games industry, looking into different sectors, going from, casual games to females to kids event. I think to bring in a different perspective and a different understanding. I think that's what females bring to the table, actually.
Great. Yes.
If I may add.
Yeah,
so I feel like maybe this is very personal. For me, sometimes, most of the time, women tend to be more communicative. Sometimes I find oftentimes men is very they understand what I mean, so, and then miscommunication happens. So there's many times happening like that, and I feel like less of that case happening when it's involving women. So communication.
So this is the big question, which is going to be quite long because many factors to it. What can be done to make the industry more inclusive for women, maybe?
Okay, for a start, I think having more females in the industry in different positions will make it more inviting for other females to join the industry, because they don't come to a company whereby everybody is a guy except her, right? So exploring different roles that a female can hold in game development is important. Be it starting by playing games or understanding more about games or learning about different aspects of game development.
I mostly agree with Ling. So one other thing to add is for our company's culture is very important. Culture where because Gwen said to me as well, in the Western company, usually very very male-dominated party, right? But on the other hand, in our company, the culture is very welcoming. The men generally respect women, even if the women hold higher position than them, the boss or the producer. So it's the culture of the company especially major company is very important. So and then other thing is maybe to give awareness to the young people, to the schools or university about women in game industry. But right now, I think we are getting better because we are more open-minded, getting more open-minded, and so people will not will less stereotyping about, okay, games is for males, something like that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my take on it is that just because I've worked in like companies and taught in schools before too, and I think one of the saddest thing, and I still see it today, unfortunately, is that especially female role models in the areas of tech. I think we're starting to see more female in the areas of producing, like people like Ling are good examples, female co-founders like Gwen, for instance. But I mean, through my long years of background in tech, I've actually found very few female, who are coders and things like that altogether. I think there has to be a way to actually encourage females to accept, to go into tech as a potential career path, especially in how the world is going nowadays. So, yeah.
So, you were mentioning that female programmers are scarce, right? And that more needs to be encouraged. Like, what can we do as a society, or like, let's say, in the education sector, or people doing policies, or let's say Ministry of Education, what can we do to encourage more females to take up programming? And what were the barriers that have prevented them? Possible barriers, for example, parenting, etc., etc.
I guess the mic is in my hand. I have to speak. I guess a few things. I think, to me, it should start from young. I think by the time it goes to the higher education, be it polytechnic or even universities, the stereotypes have actually been set already. Like, for some of you guys who know me, actually, I do teach adjunct in Digipen. I think all the Digipen lectures left. Okay, that's good. And it's kind of sad to me in a way. I mean, I enjoy teaching them. I teach the first years last semester. I teach the game design as well as the programming side. And out of 150 students, I only found less than 10 females. And I think if I segregate them into actual programmers and designers, I think less than 3 or 4 of them are female programmers altogether. And you wonder why. Because those who went into the program, they're just as good. In fact, I do find very strong female programmers among them. So personally, I don't believe that females are not as good as analytical thinking as guys altogether. And that's my encouragement to you guys. And I think the main thing is for those who actually have, have their own family or their kids or, their relatives, is to encourage them at the beginning when they're younger, to expose them to, what I call gender neutrality type of activities. I mean, yes, females will love cutie things, which I do, but then, if they're interested in programming, for instance, nowadays, you can expose them to Scratch, to Python programming, or even to Game Maker at a very young age. And I'm actually starting to see now more and more, young kids. I have friends, one of my ex-Lucas guys, his daughter is 11 years old. And his daughter actually is programming in Python, going for a Python competition altogether. I think this is a step in the right direction, and it's an encouragement to all.
I think Shieny just now mentioned about company culture, which is, as co-founders and founders, is really essential to make it clear what the company culture is. So, for example, I recently read an article about Upload VR, this company, and a few other tech companies. Uber is also one of them. That even though there are women in the company, because it's not just about quota, right? There are women in the company, but they are recently going through a lawsuit because the retreats, they hired strippers, they are prostitutes at the retreat. So, in fact, it doesn't just stop at the workplace, it extends beyond the workplace, outside of your social settings as well. So, maybe Ling can share with us a bit about the gaming front, because we haven't actually touched on esports and gaming as a hobby yet. We've been just talking about game development. So maybe you can share about how we can make the game communities more inclusive, and how do we encourage girls to play games in the first place from young?
Actually, there's already a rise in pro-female gamers nowadays. You see an all-female Malaysian team from Malaysia, playing Overwatch and stuff, right? So, I think it's a matter of perhaps working with our male colleagues to ensure that, games are no longer for guys. Don't discriminate against the females. Females can play just as well as guys nowadays, to allow them a chance to build their own stage instead of a male-dominated stage. And also, in different cultures, like apart from Singapore game development scene, in other countries as well, Indonesia, China, they all have different perspectives of how girls can or females can lead the game industry or in terms of gaming. So even casual games like Mobile Legends, for example, or in China, King of Glory, a lot of females are playing it. A lot of females are paying money to play the games. They are not any less of a gamer than the male pro gamers. So I think this can be cultivated, and as long as we cultivate the interest in females, they would sooner or later turn this expertise into game development instead of just gaming.
Yeah. Thanks. So like, another thing is that you all come from very diverse backgrounds, right? So Ling has actually worked in China before. Shieny works in Indonesia. Guan has worked in EA Canada before. Maybe you all can share about, like, is there any observations about how gender is treated differently in the games industry? Yeah.
I think what happened in Indonesia is similar to other part of the world. I mean, the stereotype is there, like, when gamers are men, right? Like, I think one of the very important factor is, the men themselves have to be more open-minded. For example, men as a husband, have to support their wife as well if the wife has passion to become to become a career or a game developer, and then like working together to maintain the family. Not only the wife have to do the housework, right? And then the man has as a father as well have to be more open-minded as well to the daughter. Like you were saying that have to expose the kids with gender neutral activity, because again it depends on their interests. Of course, you don't force them. Right, yes. And then the topic as well in Indonesia is getting more popular, and like it's in some of the game conference in Indonesia, we also have panels talking about like the importance of women in game industry. So, and also one of the Ling said that the celebrity of the gamer we also have in Indonesia.
Right.
So that's great. And then she's happened to appear a lot in television, so it's good. Like many
the publicity for her,
and
she's
then,
visible,
visible, and then inspires many young girls to okay, mom, I want to play game, right, like her. So something like that.
China,
I remember an incident whereby I was in China visiting a company, and then this assistant of the person that we're meeting was bringing us around, and she thought that I was also an assistant with like her. But after that, when she found out that I was co-founder, her first opinions were, well, I didn't know females can be co-founders as well. So I guess it's a matter of cultural mindset. If the more we talk about it, the more we appear at different events talking about it, spreading awareness, the more they will feel that this is no longer a minority thing. This is no longer like an abnormal thing. Instead, this is as common as any other job occupations. Females can be co-founders, can hold high positions in game companies as well.
I think just now we were joking about it that as we become co-founders, none of us actually become co-founders and think that, oh, I'm a female co-founder. You know, to us, we are just co-founders. We just want to do the job. You know, we don't really think about our gender.
Yeah, it's very funny because, this new company that I just become a partner, I think there's 4 of us. There's only 1 guy. The other 3 of them are all females, actually. So I think my experience is slightly different. I was looking to allude to my Canadian as well as my US experience, just because, EA has different branches. So actually for Canada, I've been very lucky. There's actually role models that before I came on board, very strong female coders. I mean, I started my background is in coding. So EA Canada has always been very, accepting. Right. And I do not face any discrimination, which what you see in a lot of articles about females coders and everything altogether. But I want to refer to one incident where some of you guys may know that I was formerly a technical director in EA. So I do travel a lot between EA and Walnut Creek, where Maxis is. And I think one of my tasks was then to bring over the whole PlayStation and the PS1 version, to port the PS1 version of Sims. And it's very telling that when I walk into a room as the TD from Canada, And I walk into a room full of white guys, I hate to say, and they're all technical, they're all the TDs in Maxis, and there was really a shock look in their eyes to see, I always just joke, a Chinese female walking in and announcing to them I'm the TD from Canada, and I'm supposed to bring back and review their tech engine altogether. And that was when I sensed that, oh my goodness, being a female coder in the industry is such a rarity. And actually, to be fair, during that period, I actually had to prove myself a bit more to the US team, not to the Canadian team. But just because there's no female coders in US. Or at least during my time, it's all very white, male-dominated, especially in the higher levels of management.
It seems like both you and Ling face this thing where people assume that you are of lesser status just because you are female, Asian female, especially when you're put beside a man who's probably charismatic, who's probably maybe you find that he's talking over you and stuff like that. I think, I personally experienced it, but there was another story I wanted to share about, this, lady that she was working in a AAA studio, and, her title was actually, overseas HR. She held quite a high position, but her boss was always telling her to pour water for her, pour coffee for her. And sometimes like Ling said, during the interview, the interviewee was a guy and kept making eye contact with, the interviewer. There are two interviewers, right? Yeah, female and male. And then they kept making eye contact with only the male one because they didn't think that Ling, the woman, could have been the project manager. They kept thinking the guy was in the position of power. So, some takeaways from these experiences is that even though we may not consider ourselves directly sexist, right, but there's a lot of prejudices at the back of our mind, for men and women alike, just now we were talking about how even women also, have sexism attitudes towards their own gender, oh, I didn't know that this and that. And we must constantly fight against it. Just now, Shieny and I were having a brief conversation about women judging other women. Maybe we can share a bit more about that.
Completely forgot about that.
It's okay. Help you remind.
So this is just to add the question where how to make more women, how to make the game industry more inclusive to other women is to a bit brainwashing the women inside the game industry themselves, because many cases I found in companies in Indonesia, especially, is for example, there are two marketing girls, the two girls in marketing, and then they start working together, and then a few months they are working together. The boss hear that this girl don't like the other girl, and then they just kept gossiping about, oh, she's too bossy, or oh, she's and then the boss has to decide which one he wants to keep. It's so funny. So I think again, for my perspective is as a co-founder of the company is to be aware of those cases happening inside our own company, and then have to be take care of it, and then maybe to share with other women. Don't be too emotional in something like that, right? Then don't be too overly sensitive about other women. They might not mean to harm you. For example, if we as a women leader and then criticize our subordinate, which is other women, and then have to make her aware that it's not personal. It's totally about the work, not to offend herself, right?
Yeah, this was just not the point of what I made about how women can also be sexist to other women, because you wouldn't say, some of the women that say this may not say this to guys. They will only say it to other women because they judge other women more harshly. So, but just now, what I was discussing with her is that it's because we need to know the common goal. I think as women in the industry, the enemy is not ourselves. We are not competition with each other. Neither are men the enemy. The enemy is actually the system that has allowed all of this to happen. So when we keep very focused, right, as we do our work and our jobs, right, on why we are empowering ourselves and what we're trying to change, right, then it's not about the people. It's always the system. You must always remind yourself, that is this system that has enabled it. So for example, like, you know, I was gaming from young, and then, like, I don't know whether y'all play Team Fortress 2 lah, but, in the community, there are girls that always like to, flirt with guys, you know, to get items, to get them to buy items for them. I used to judge them very harshly. But then, as I realized who the real enemy is, which is the systems, because the guys fall for it also, what? And like you said, there are also guys that pretend to be females to get this kind of thing also, what? So it's not really the girl's fault, it's the system. Yeah. That's an interesting point. Maybe we'll just briefly touch on the representation of women in games, since we've come to this point. So, what are your current observations about the representation of women in games for, like, casual games, AAA titles, console games, etc.?
I think as a whole, we talk about different types of games having different types of characters, right? So for casual games, it's less of that because casual games, a lot of female gamers play it. We usually use a lot of cute characters to attract the female gamers. But more for those more hardcore games or more serious games, they objectify women as the female lead that you have to rescue, you know, play up to the man's ego. You are the hero, you have to go rescue the princess, right? So, but actually it's no longer so, by going down this road, right, you make it less, it's less possible for women to feel for the game. Women nowadays are empowered to do more things. We have women speaking at major events. We have women representing major organizations nowadays. So having games that perhaps take the risk by showing a female lead, whereby the female is no longer waiting to be rescued, or even the female rescuing male leads, I think this is a huge risk that no other companies are doing at the moment, or have not had the chance to explore.
Okay, just to add, her opinion is about, I suddenly remember about Mystic Messenger. It's actually a bit revolutionary. I mean, in terms of on the other hand, like in the console games, yeah, we have to rescue the female characters, but in Mystic Messenger, the one that is entertained is women, right? And like I don't play Mystic Messenger that much. Like my colleague, like she is playing Mystic Messenger very much, and then yeah, she is a bit like playgirl, flirting, not flirting. Try to capture the heart of the main characters, and also like. Yeah, right now I think we are getting better because, for example, console games in 3DS like Harvest Moon, also like long time ago start to have female characters as well. So yeah, I think we are getting better. Yeah.
When Ling and she was talking, I just came something to my mind. I think, which is back to our point just now about having strong female role models and strong female, hopefully, co-founders. And the example that I was actually going to allude to was actually Lucasfilm. If you notice, that it started from Star Wars, right? And for those who know that Uncle George, as I call him, stepped down, of course, and then is led by Kathleen Kennedy. And one thing Kathleen Kennedy did, which I do respect her for, was two things. First thing, actually, she started hiring more females in the organization. If you read an article about her recently in Variety, she actually did that. But I think more importantly, she actually, if you notice all the new Star Wars, for those who have watched Rogue One, Star Wars 7, and the upcoming Star Wars 8, you notice the main character is now a very strong female. And I think that's actually changing a lot of perception. And if you notice, Star Wars is actually also getting more inclusive. They try to bring more minority characters, Asian, African Americans, for instance. And I think that's my hope for the games. I think the movie industry has actually shown us it could be done.
Yeah.
And it still can be a success. I mean, Star Wars brought in, 400 billion or million, last year. So if that can be done for the entertainment industry, why not the games industry? Because we're in the same business of entertaining people too. So it's for somebody to actually just say, let's do it. And of course, with the success story, I think will come the recognition.
Yeah, I like it when you mention Star Wars because they're female protagonists, but they're not hypersexualized. Sometimes in many games you see many female protagonists, but the boobs is bigger than the face. It's
it's interesting because you notice, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, right?
Yeah.
So if you notice the original trilogy about how they portray Princess Leia, even though she's a strong character, she still needs rescuing.
Right.
But now if you notice, for Daisy Race, she's totally different.
Right.
So I think this is the shift in perception. I think that's very important. And I do hope to see that in the industry, actually. I mean, especially in the AAA industry that we are talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a great point because I was just thinking about the token female. My next question is are quotas enough? Is it enough to have more women in games, more women in, let's say every company, let's have an arbitrary number, 50% of them are women. Is it enough to just play the numbers game, or do we need to do more?
So yeah, I think the solution is not really having a quota policy, because still I think the first criteria to recruiting people is still to see their capability,
right,
their
skills.
The skills, and also the alignment to the company itself. And then, I think what we need to do is a long way to go because, we need to inspire more and more women that this is very interesting. This is something that is not forbidden for you to do. So I personally don't think that quota is appropriate solution to this issue. Yeah. Oh, also about Star Wars. Also Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones Game of Thrones also have will be the season 7, right? Season 7 will be women leaders. We should be proud of that. So
yeah.
Yeah, like Shieny, I don't think quota is the answer. Rather, I think that creating an environment with your male working colleagues, a culture whereby females feel accepted, is more important than having a quota. Like Inzen, we had 5 co-founders, 4 guys, and when we started Inzen, our first rule was no asshole rule. So no one could be assholes to anybody else, because that way we included being nice to everybody. And I think this is something that a lot of companies don't really set their heart to do. When everybody is doing it, it seems okay for them to do it. I don't think that's okay at all. But by creating an environment whereby everybody is actively trying to push that, hey, let's be equal, you can't treat females that way. You have to be, females are no longer the same anymore, blah, blah, blah. I think by creating this type of environment, it's more easy for females to go into the game development industry.
I guess I'm one of those that's a bit different. So anyway, so for those who know, as I mentioned, that I did the Gambit program and of course the SUTD Game Lab. One thing actually, when Philip, which was my co-director, that I agreed on from day one in Gambit, is that we're always trying to increase the proportion of females in the program itself, because we do see a huge number of male applicants. And actually it was a spoken rule between ourselves. As long as there's a female and there's a male and they meet, you can call it reverse, whatever you can call it. But if both of them meet the requirements, and especially if the females in the area of tech, I'll actually pick the female over the guys altogether, just because we wanted to make sure that for 2 things: A, that females are fairly represented, and secondly, we always believe, and for those who have been to the Gambit program, you realize there's always at least one female in the whole team, right? Actually, it was a very obvious choice that we actually made. Actually, they were also going to make sure that in every team, it should not be all guys team. And frankly speaking, sometimes we may have to pick a slightly weaker female to be in the program, and because we believe in these 2 things altogether from the training perspective, actually.
And also because maybe, I guess, guys, it's a lot easier for them to have job opportunities in general, which is why you had preference for females. You wanted to give them a chance.
Yes, and also the other thing is because we also wanted to make sure that guys learn to work with females. Which is why, I mean, that was one thing that Philip and I, Philip Tan and I actually discussed when we first started the program. And I think that because if they're so used to going into this all males dominated industry, this is maybe the only chance, or one of the rare chances, they get to work with a female from a very different perspective.
It sounds sad, but true.
But it's a very fair thing.
Yes.
So which is why we actually make some concessions, for that altogether.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to something like, because a lot of times you all say that it's getting better. So my next question is like, what do you see has changed for this industry for the time that you've started being in game dev to now? Is it for better? Is it for worse? In different factors, society?
I think generally people are more acceptant of having females hold different roles in game development. Usually it's just females being artists, right? Or perhaps QA, or you see more and more designers nowadays as well. I think in the past people wouldn't like to listen to orders from a female producer or, a female superior, and they would purposely reject it or find ways to go around it. But nowadays, people are having the mentality whereby everybody is equal. And even if you are working under a female boss, that's okay. Of course, you have to see how to communicate with her. But I think this is a skill that you can learn. I think communication between the team members, regardless being a male or female, is the most important thing. So, as long as they don't actively reject working with women, and I think as long as the culture doesn't allow them or is constantly reminding them to work well with others, this is already a big improvement.
Yep.
So, what I would like to proudly to say is in Indonesia, when we just started, there are no very, very few, like only one maybe, major game company in the country, and then right now there are quite many, and then like what we do as a company is so we have division is called Agate Academy. So what they do is very often they make coverage about our own crew. They are female, and then hold a role as a game producer, for example, a game designer. And also, I don't know about Singapore, but in Indonesia we have like every 21st of April we have Kartini Day. Kartini is our national hero in women equality,
right?
And then so in that in that event, like many news about these women in this industry, and then so every year there are more and more women like in the game industry and game designers. So so it's I think that's
it's
huge.
Getting better.
It's getting better.
A lot better.
I guess if you notice, the trend is that, like what both of them have said, producers, designers, I think definitely an improvement. But unfortunately, I still feel the same still happens for tech. I think from my past 10 over years of working in Singapore, I've actually yet to come across, sad to say, a female lead in the games industry or even the tech industry of any offices I walk into altogether. And to me, it's kind of sad because I think coming from a background of tech, where actually is, interestingly enough, 10 years ago was acceptable to be a tech lead and a technical director in Canada. But I yet to find another replica of myself in Singapore or around Asia, because I walk into all the, they're all still guys dominated actually.
I think for Chor Guan, even aside from tech, mentorship, right, in the games industry, I think you are like the only female doing mentoring.
Kind of.
There's
also
there's Kim as well.
Kim also.
Kim as well. Yes.
Kim is of course, Len Shak, they're also doing a lot of mentoring altogether actually.
Yeah, lor. So I think that wraps up the panel. So are there any questions from the crowd? Anybody wants to?
I can start with one.
Yeah, sure.
I specifically want to know this question for Chor Guan. What or who is the key influence that turned you into this rare being, the female programmer?
Okay, for me, I guess, actually I always liked, tech things. So to be frank, if I didn't become a programmer, I've become a mathematician actually. I was supposed to do a master's in mathematics, but I enjoy programming. So my first degree is actually in engineering, electrical engineering. But I like programming so much that I decided to do a master's in computer science. But I guess games is one that mixes, that turned my hobby into a career, because it actually allows me to create things, and because I like technical things, and because I like games, it's a very good combination actually. So when EA came to me, I said my first job was actually building air traffic controllers. And, then when EA, kind of talked to me about creating games, I thought it's more fun than getting airplanes to fly from destination A to destination B.
So that liking for technical stuff, innate, or did someone influence you to go towards that direction?
For technical stuff, I guess it's a innate interest, I think. Yeah. But I think for gaming, I guess I was influenced by my family because we do play games all together. Yes.
Maybe if there's no more question, I'll ask one more question. But how do you all get into games? How do you end up liking video games? Because I was inspired by your question and your answer as well. Okay. Yeah.
I can tell you I play Pac-Man. Sorry.
Don't reveal your age.
Yeah, no, I'm showing my age, I know. It's a Pac-Man age. I said my answer already.
How, right? The question is...
Yeah, how do you was it because of family influence or friends or, the community?
It's my brother influence.
Your brother influence, okay, cool.
So yeah, we play together, and then I end up in video game industry, and he's not. So
Yay!
So I'm too involved, right? Yeah.
For me, it was because I studied digital media design in MIP, then game specialization. So after that, career choice was pretty straightforward. EAQA, then moving on to other things. But I do remember playing my favorite classic all-time game was Golden X3. I always wanted to bring it back to modern devices nowadays, but yeah. So that was what sparked out for me, I guess.
Cool. I think for me it was a family. We used to, the very first game my entire family played, right, was as in the 3 siblings, me, my brother and sister, was Heroes of Might and Magic. So we used to farm the level 1 mobs of fairies and peasants and just play with throngs of them and just try to, Yes. So that's all. Are there any more questions? No more questions? Oh, yay!
Very random thing, but so what are your favorite games, or games that have impacted you the most? I mean, you guys I guess mentioned already, but are there any other very favorite games that also impacted you in a way?
So actually, recently the one that really impacted me the most was Life is Strange. I don't know whether y'all played it. Life is Strange is actually very different from other games because I grew up with FPSs, surprisingly. I really love violence. So I like the feeling of fragging people, it gives me the competitive high. But I found myself liking Life is Strange, which is quite outside of my scope. And why I liked it was because it seemed so real. Life is Strange is a lot about bullying, it's a lot about friendship, things that we experience in our college days, in secondary school. So it seemed very real to me, and the choices we had to make were very, very tough. It's got to do with life or death, it's got to do with whether you keep this friendship or not. So that one was quite striking for me during the recent years.
It's going to sound so lame, but I think Pokemon. I guess, for me, which is why even though I was joking about Pac-Man, I think what for me was actually the old NES games. I think, to this day, and it's kind of, not to say anything, but I think, the level design, the whole storyline, the King Squares, all this actually, and actually for me, my favorite game is still Monkey Island, which is why I joined Lucasfilm, by the way. Seriously, I thought I'd be working on Monkey Island. I was not. So anyway, but I think, I think it's the old storytelling that I think that brings all the, adventures and everything into your games, actually.
So, maybe, so my favorite game of all time, maybe The Sims.
The Sims.
So
yes.
women, right?
No, but it's great. The Sims is awesome. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. Yeah, so I'm a bit sad actually because I'm from serious game and I cannot think of any games that bring real impact to my life. So anyway.
For me, most impactful, I can't think of any that is really impactful, but what I like about the games right now that I play, I usually play MOBA. So because I like the teamwork, I like, stuff like that. It makes me want to work with other people, like how to beat myself again and again, how to beat the opponents, like creating different strategies and stuff. So this was what that's pushing me.
I guess we should wrap up.
Okay.
On behalf of Casual Connect, we would like to thank the panel for their time.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for coming.